Sometimes I feel like when there is this study about ancestral knowledge, it's always, you don't know what's the catalyst that makes you think about that. And so I thought it was important to include this particular piece, which is a book that evaluates my relationship with my brother, as well as my dad's relationship with his brother. And for the last 5 years, I've been impacted by the prison industrial complex, and having incarcerated loved ones kind of pushed me to become less of an advocate and more of an activist. And so I created this book for an exhibition about the familial effects of incarceration. And so it's a handmade book that has drawings and letters and words about what I remember in regards to my relationship to my brother. And then also it maps out a trajectory of our space and time together. Several years ago, I participated in creating a sculptural piece that would be really a letter between my brother and I, and me and my uncle during their time of incarceration. And I remember when I wrote the words for that piece, all I could think about was how many sunrises we have lost and how many sunsets we've lost over the time of them being incarcerated. And the interesting thing is that both my brother and my uncle were incarcerated in Lompoc, California, which actually isn't that far from Ojai. And so coming here was a really interesting experience, thinking that, here's this lovely, lush, beautiful space, and not too far from here, 2 of my family members were incarcerated. I think with this piece, my favorite part of the book is me taking time and creating this particular drawing that maps when certain really important things happen to me and really important things happen to my brother. And I have 2 brothers, and one brother was incarcerated and my other brother is a law enforcement officer. And so it was really important for me to visually articulate our time and the things that were different and the times where we interjected into each other's lives, making differences, making different choices, making different moves throughout the world, and introducing an openness and a space for reflection. And it was important to mix the organic and the geometric. The geometric as a reference to very linear understanding, and then the more biomorphic, organic shapes as a representation of just humanness and space. And there are poems in here and references to our childhood. And then there's this image here, is an image of a care package. So the state mandates that, you can only send certain things. They have these pre-made packages that can be sent to certain incarcerated individuals. And so this was an example of a package that I sent my brother. And there are also paintings. And some of this is also kind of beginning this conversation about ancestral knowledge. So this page that covers this is actually an inscription written by one of the matriarchs of my family who has passed away, to my brother when she gave him a poetry book of early African American poems. And then this particular piece is made up of a zine that I created to call in the ancestors. So the book definitely is referencing my relationship with my brother, but also calling on the ancestors to really kind of lead us through this journey. And it's this code here is the HTML code for an image of cup of noodles, which is on the page next to it. And then a picture of my brothers and I. I incorporated some of the paperwork that I had to fill out in order to go see my brother. And I remember feeling like I was giving up such a sacred part of myself and my identity. And then I found this really great picture of my uncle and my brother. And my uncle has passed away, but he's holding my brother. And I remember this day, we were actually not too far from Ojai in Lompoc at the time when this picture was taken. And I wrote a very long letter. I wrote a very long letter to my brothers.
Have they seen the letter?
So the thing about telling these stories, and another reason why I'm so grateful to this Ojai space, is because it allowed me to have a very safe journey through these concepts and ideas. And I tell my brother about it, but I also feel like I can't really talk to him directly about my experience with his incarceration, because ultimately his incarceration is about him and his feelings about it. And I make a point to honor that space. And that's what's so great about being able to make art, is because I can release that, so I can be very present to give him what he needs. He knows that this work exists. I would love for them to be able to see it. I'd love to show this in South Carolina where they all live. But since they're so far away, I feel like, aside from the traditional ways of calling and emailing and Facebook and Instagram, of connecting with them, my ancestors are also a way for me to connect with them. And so that's why this work, I feel like I'm using my hands to honor this space of what I don't know, but also to honor my ancestors that have kind of pushed me forward emotionally, mentally, while they were here. And then even afterwards, you know, I have so many creative, amazing women in my life. And the Ojai thing that I noticed when I first started coming here was how many women were alone traveling in Ojai. And I felt like that was so like so many of the women in my family, where they'd get out, they were super creative, very innovative, and I connected to that right away, where this was a space that allowed women to go on some type of journey, some type of introspective space. And I don't know, maybe it does the same for men. I'm not a man, so I do not know. But I definitely felt a really strong tie and connectivity to the women within this particular community, an openness, a willingness to explore not just a physical greatness, but also a spiritual and an emotional awakening and revitalizing, and a taking up of space that was really allowed here. So